Hello everybody, welcome back. We're just going to focus on EOS now. I'll make a video in a moment about the overall market, but long story short, Bitcoin on the short-term time frames does favour a little more downside, even if it's just to retest those most recent lows of 45,500 or so. I'm not looking for a larger breakdown at the moment, but things do, I think, favour a bit more downside, generally speaking. And with that in mind, we can look at picking up altcoins. I think it's not a bad idea, to be honest with you, to use a Bitcoin as your overall indicator to buy some altcoins. I've certainly been doing it. Now, one of the altcoins that we're going to look at now is EOS, and I suppose it was never really my intention, but there's always a lot of demand for me to talk about EOS. I think because in the past, we did have a pretty sizable and significant trade on EOS, and this was based on its large multi-year consolidation, and we started buying into it in this period of accumulation. The top being $3.60, the bottom being about $2.30, $2.40, right? This was a clear accumulation out of a massive consolidation, and then we started to go into an uptrend, and this was why I talked about EOS in the first place. Since then, people have asked me to talk about EOS constantly, like I work for them or something. It's not the same as it was now. Right now, it's definitely not the same as it was back down here. This was a great setup based on consolidation, accumulation, and a few other signs and signals that we're going to go into an uptrend. This, unfortunately, doesn't have that. But what it does have is a retest of the bottom level of the accumulation. If we have a look back in time, right? So this was a bear market end, bull market begin, but for EOS, consolidation is still very much in play. The bottom level was this wick low here. So there are buyers in here, and they were buying in at a very, very obvious area. So the buy orders basically tagged a multi-year, like I'm talking multi-year, support. So that's not bullish, to be honest with you, and as far as price action is concerned. But it is interesting to note that despite the chart looking like this, there is relevance to at least this moving, this horizontal trend line of support, which means, and this is one of the things I like about EOS in the first place, or at least for this uptrend. There has always been relevance to the way it's traded, level by level. So this is what we've got to look at, okay? So we're going to assume that we're back to square one. We're in this accumulation zone, right? So we're going to assume that that is the case. We're in this accumulation zone here. The bottom zone being about $2.40, and the top of the accumulation zone being about $3.60. So this is a big range. We were talking about this last time we were down here, like about a year ago. From the bottom to the top, 53%, and obviously if you bought the top and came down to the bottom, it's a 35% retrace. So quite significant, and at the moment we're more or less in the middle of that. But with what I've said, with Bitcoin looking a little bit, willing to come down a little bit further, then we could be thinking of staggering some buys for EOS. And again, this isn't anything to do with it being bullish. It's not bullish. This is to do with it being in what was previously a very well respected accumulation zone, and with the developments that's come on with the bullish IO, the bullish exchange, that would be, I mean, in theory, there should be some kind of lift to the price. It's going to be difficult while it's down here, but if you're looking to buy into something low, almost as in an investment perspective rather than a trade, I think we're coming down to very reasonable levels for EOS to be picked up at. And again, we've got a lot of support taking place in the middle of this accumulation zone, $3, and we had that as well for the most part around here. Again, this was a much stronger accumulation based on a lot longer consolidation, and the moving averages had been flat for a very long time. At the moment, the moving averages aren't flat; they're pretty much falling down with us. So, in a normal accumulation vibe, you would expect all these moving averages to blend into one area, like they did over here. You can see all the moving averages basically in one specific area, everything else being pretty much flat, and that range being a bit of a volatile range. So this does, again, favour a bit more downside on this one as well, because the chart is more bearish, and over here the chart wasn't particularly bearish. It was clear accumulation. This isn't clear accumulation, although this is an accumulation zone, which seems, like I say, why we took note of the fact that this wick was so very well respected on a multi-year support. So I quite like it for what it's worth, and like I say, we're not looking for this to suddenly turn around and go into full moon boy mode or anything like that. But if anyone was looking for a decent risk to reward trade, I think this probably would be one of them. And again, you could be in this trade for 6 months, for 12 months before it reaches maturity. So don't think by buying into EOS that you're going to get enormous gains anytime soon. But if you were to think about purchasing it, even at today's value, and we came up to our previous wick highs, not the absolute tops, it's a 300% move. Like I say, between now and some point this year, potentially the end of the year, we just don't know. It could be even in the next few months. We need to begin an uptrend on this one first before we can talk about where those targets would be. But as far as risk to reward, I do think that EOS will make another run on it, because it's proved that once it breaks those areas of support, resistance, it flips them to support, and it does become a nice incremental step by step up. And it would have continued to go higher if it wasn't for the market dumping in May. And that was the problem with it. We were looking for targets up into the $20 area, and which is where it was definitely going. Unfortunately for EOS, couldn't take the pain of the overall market coming down and crashing. So EOS in accumulation area, although not particularly strong while being in this center zone. So be prepared for further downside on this one, but incremental buys on EOS I don't think is a bad idea. But again, I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice at all. There's no uptrend in sight at the moment, only downtrend. And again, that is emphasised by Bitcoin and Bitcoin's threat of coming down to the lower area of its accumulation zone, which is a further 15% drop from now. So, end of this, if you put it all out there, in a summary, EOS you could stagger buys from as high as about $3.10 to potentially front running this bottom area of support about $2.40 or something like that, and you might end up getting relatively instant gratification by buying the bottom of what I believe to be a strong accumulation zone, and essentially this being marking the absolute floor. You might not have these orders filled. It's going to be dependent on Bitcoin, but you may have them filled. And if that is the case, then yeah, you'd be in a safe enough investment trade, for a long term. And I say long term, I am talking like 6, 8, 10, 12 months maybe for this to reach its full maturity. And I do strongly think that it will reach its previous, as in like this most recent high and beyond. A lot of this is going to be market dependent, but I see the market for altcoins, especially given what we've seen with Bitcoin dominance breaking down below 40 and altcoins decoupling from Bitcoin and just moving all over the place, regardless of Bitcoin's particular downtrend. Does look like things are decoupling, and why not EOS? Yeah, EOS could decouple because it's shown that it has in the past. Once it's broken through these resistances, actually gain quite significant power. But there's no power in it right now. Just maybe an opportunity to pick up EOS at its lows. Remember, there's no downtrend, there's no uptrend at the moment. And so don't buy this and expecting them to be an instant uptrend. Just think risk to reward works out okay at this level, and even better if you were to incrementally set buy orders on the way down towards this $2.40 zone. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.